This is The Storied Outdoors, a podcast somewhere between Lewis and Tolkien and Lewis and Clark, finding clarity in the stories we tell and the adventures that shape us. Well, welcome to The Storied Outdoors. Man, we just finished season 5, Brian. I can't believe it. I was looking at our, we got a little Google document, with all our seasons and our episodes and episode numbers. We are sitting here in this moment recording episode number 70.
That's incredible.
Episode number 70. Never thought we'd make it this far. I really, I wasn't sure how long it would last, but man, I've been having so much fun. And this past season has been, it's been one that's been full of surprises and, rich conversations, lots of good stories.
Yep.
We did some new things.
Yep.
Man.
Had some really big names.
Yeah.
I mean,
just again, always shocked at who's willing to join us, right?
I know. I mean, and it's so funny. We say, hey, look, we can't pay you. And they come on for free. And it's just, it's just one of those things that there are so many people out there just willing to tell their story. And that's what we're all about, is just the art of the story. We like to get the big names. We like to get those people because they have unique stories that a lot of people will know. But one of the things we really like doing is finding those stories that nobody knows. Finding those little nuggets. Story. Yeah, the untold story.
That's it. We certainly had some of those. It was a lot of fun. I think, I don't know. I was thinking about, we're going to sit down and we're going to have this conversation, Brian, and how do I pick a favorite episode? Is so, it's like picking a favorite child. But, it's really difficult to really pick a favorite episode. One of my top to bottom most comfortable and enjoyable conversations to me was probably Sean Dietrich.
100%. That felt like we were just talking to a good old buddy.
Just a friend, just a great friend. And man, I enjoyed, that. And we covered a lot of ground on that conversation. And man, I was so grateful for Sean taking time to join us, and his transparency and honesty and, candor about some points that were hard, some hard points in his life, but then some great fun. And every time I see a picture of Thelma Lou pop up on Instagram, it gives me a good laugh.
She made an appearance for sure.
Thelma Lou, the hound dog.
And what's funny about that conversation, Brad, is that a lot of people who listened to it, their feedback was, man, it felt like you guys were just hanging out and having a conversation. Well, that's exactly what we hope is going to happen.
Yeah.
We don't want this to be an interview. We want it to be what you call a digital campfire, where we're just sitting around and hanging out.
Yeah. Sean gave he gave the greatest compliment. I think he's like, man, you guys are easy to talk to. And man, that for me, that was just a high compliment.
He also told us at the end, he said, and you guys didn't make it weird, which I thought that was,
that
was a good compliment too.
Yeah. Y'all didn't make it weird. I'm sure, I don't know. I'm sure people do. And you want to ask good questions, but you don't want to ask weird questions. But
yeah, that was definitely a fun one. One that I thought was fascinating was the guy that you found by Googling benefits of a fire.
Yeah.
And
I know,
Dr. Christopher Lynn.
Yeah. Dr.
University of Alabama. I mean, what a great conversation. I mean,
one, I feel so justified at, now from now on, I can say with confidence we're staring at caveman TV.
Yeah.
But we can sit down and sit at a fire and go, hey, this is good for me. This is prescribed, good for me. Proven. There's a research that backs it up. And man, it was really cool to, I guess, I don't know what the word is, how I would say it. Not to say justified, but I knew there was something special about sitting around a fire.
Mm-hmm.
We've always said how much we all love that. Now we know a little bit as to why that's true.
Yeah, it's
Because
validation.
it really is validation as to like, oh, now I understand. That was kind of what I was hoping for, which
Mm-hmm.
was cool because he made the point as an anthropologist, like you find a question you want to answer,
Yep.
and that's really what he does as a profession. Like why is that the case? And that was a really really cool conversation. So, and for me, like that's some of the stories that we write or essays we write. I'm starting to sort of take that approach as what question do I want to answer? You know,
Yeah, that's a good point.
when I'm writing, so I'm sitting down, when I'm reflecting, when we're taking time to reflect,
Yep.
how do I want to go deeper, in this part of my story, and what question to ask, which I'm fascinated by good questions. And
Yeah.
that's my favorite response too. Is like, oh man, when somebody that we're talking to pauses and goes, man, that's a good question. I feel like I'm like, yes, we're on track.
If any of you ever watch the YouTube version and our guests say that, you'll see Brad and me look at each other and we're like, yes,
Yes.
we got it. We got a good question in there. And that's what you
Mhm.
want is, we're interviewers, we're at the heart of it. And we're trying to ask questions that are thought provoking. We don't want to just sit there like that old Chris Farley skit on Saturday Night Live where he is
You
just,
remember that time you were in the Beatles?
yeah.
Man, that was awesome.
That was awesome. That's what I felt like this whole thing was going to be. But then we started kind of making a set list, and it's like, oh, yeah, let's put a little thought into this. And
That's
that's
amazing.
that's kind of what we're hoping not to be.
Yeah.
There's, I kind of feel like that was that way a little bit with some of these bigger names, like AP and Charles Martin and Tom Rosenbauer. I mean, some of my responses are
Yeah.
like, wow. I mean, I'm just like, oh man, I should have brought more to the
Yeah.
table than that.
Yeah. Speaking of, I mean, Rosenbauer was a bucket list, guest. I mean,
Yeah.
really, he's the host of the Orvis Fly Fishing Podcast.
Yep.
Worked for Orvis for, what do you say, 45 years. But just a kind gentleman. I mean, just a,
Man.
fisherman's fisherman,
Yep.
extremely kind man.
Just very gracious to share with the
Yes.
world his whole
Yes.
life. I mean, he's sharing his knowledge of fly fishing, and we
Yeah.
talked a lot about that, and we talked about how, and even in one of the essays that I wrote, it's so hard to kind of get into the sport of fly fishing
Sure.
unless you know somebody or have some
Mm-hmm.
help in some
Mm-hmm.
way. And so we want to just follow Tom's example and just be approaching the sport with open arms and bringing
Yeah.
more people into the group.
And he certainly does that with, he's got video after video after instructional video
Mm-hmm.
of trying to, give people the knowledge they need to enjoy the sport that we love. So, and then he took time to chat with us about it. It was really cool. It was a really cool conversation.
That was a great one.
I'm always fascinated, though. You would think, like, gosh, that's a huge name. I mean, he's the face of Orvis fly fishing. He's on their magazines and all that stuff. But like his episode numbers wise, if we're talking about the growth of a
Mm-hmm.
podcast and how many plays a certain episode gets, like it didn't garner as many plays as I guess we would have thought.
Yeah.
But then there were episodes that did, garner a lot more plays. And I think Sean's got such a great following of people. Like he was probably one of the best performing. Would you say one of the better performing episodes just because he's got such a great fan
Yeah.
base?
Yeah. And of this season too, specifically this season was a good one. And we did the giveaway with his book,
Oh yeah,
and
that's
and
right.
he was gracious enough to share that on his social media, and we picked up a lot of followers. And if you're listening
Yeah,
now and
so
and,
cool.
and you're a follower because of Sean's post, we really appreciate you and thank you for joining us on this
Absolutely.
journey.
So much fun. You know, it's been a long season, a lot of episodes.
We
I
packed a
would
lot
be
in this year.
We did. I would be remiss to not talk about how great it was to have Steve Davis on from On River Time.
Hey, and they just won a pretty good award.
I know that was awesome.
It's like, what was it, the nonprofit of the year?
Well, I'll look it up so that we won't mess it up, because it was just a recent post that I saw. Um,
Well, and on River Time is Steve's nonprofit, and they've been doing it for 10 years now.
yeah,
And
here we go. This is Wendy Gardner Media.
yeah,
Was
when she works there with the
Yeah.
nonprofit.
So this was on her post. She says, and thank you for sharing. On River Time named PGA Tour Champions Charity of the Year.
That's
That's
incredible.
incredible.
That's a huge award, and it's well deserved because they do such great work with children who have come from abused homes.
Yeah.
They get them out of this cycle of not being able to trust adults, and plus they take them to some of the most pristine waters in the United States, so on the Snake River in Idaho,
Oh, man.
for a couple of weeks of trout fishing, and just really opening up and sharing with one another. It's a fantastic nonprofit. I really
Well,
want you, if you haven't listened to it, go back and listen to it.
yeah, go back and check it out. We asked him a question in that. What's your next adventure? What did he say? Do you remember what he said, Brian?
He was looking to buy that lodge, and I think that is in the works, based on what he's told us. And man, what a
Becoming
great
a reality.
it's becoming a reality, and what a great
That's amazing.
opportunity.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
Well, I think that's for me and for you. I think you would say the same thing. I think that's just the Lord's favor on a really gracious and good work.
yeah, yeah,
What they're doing, and I think they're good stewards with what they get, financially.
yep.
And they do a great work
And
with what they do.
they've surrounded themselves with a great board, a great junior
Yeah.
board, really working hard in the fundraising and awareness aspect of this thing, and they're doing it right. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about Amanda Bridges Dunn?
I'm still like,
Every time I see her post something,
her pictures.
I'm thinking my heart beats a little bit faster. I get a little trepidation, and it's like, okay, I don't think I could do that. I still don't think I could do it.
Incredible. If you haven't followed Amanda Dunn and what they do is really cool, and they get some just staggering photos, of the places that they explore on Adventuring Light.
I feel like they've taken it up to another level this year.
Yeah,
of what they're exploring, how they're exploring. I think Amanda maybe found a cave and was able to name it because she was the one that found it.
An undiscovered cavern.
Which that's just fascinating human being. So
I'll go by some water and go, I wonder if there's a fish in there.
Yeah.
But I've never looked at a hole in the ground and go, I wonder how far that goes.
I wonder how far I can go into that small crevice.
No.
No,
sirree. No, I'm gonna leave that question unanswered, buddy.
Yep. I think I can live without having to know the answer to that one.
Oh man, looking back to, like, Louis Markos was he was hilarious, man. He was
the fastest 45 minutes in podcasting.
He was the most excited. He was so passionate about what he had to say and excited about the conversation. Again, another guy that's got a lot on his schedule. He travels a lot, teaches a lot, lectures a ton. And yet he was kind enough to take time to speak to a couple of guys from Alabama.
And it wasn't like he was just appeasing us. Man, he was all in on that conversation.
He really was. Yeah, it was good.
It was a fun one.
Thinking back on it, I really, really loved several of the things that he had to say. When it comes to, what does it mean to be a man? What does it mean to be a good friend or friendship? He talked about that he made the comment. He's like, I'm really glad that Lord of the Rings was filmed in New Zealand, because men in New Zealand know how to show affection, and that's something that's lost within our culture. And I just really appreciated what he had to say there. And I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was a good one. Man, you want to talk about a home run? Jeff Moore.
Well played, sir. Well played.
If those of you who don't know, Jeff Moore wrote a really good song back in the 90s or early 2000s called Home Run, with contemporary Christian music. And that was the play there.
Man, Jeff was delightful. I mean, I had a bunch of comments you know, it was like, "God, you got to talk to Jeff Moore."
That was
You
a
know,
ton of people commented on our posts about that. It was like they were thrilled. They were like, "I loved him back in the day," and I'm like,
yeah,
"Well, you loved him back then. You'll love him now."
yeah, he was just as cool as you would want him to be.
Yeah,
Again, another one of those guys where it just felt like, man, we just got to hang out with, you know, with Jeff Moore in a conversation. And I'll never forget the story that he tells about his dad
yeah,
catching that trout, you know, barehanded. It's just a great story. And he did a good job telling it, man.
yeah.
What a great season. And then, man, let's not forget we got a late edition um guest, Hank Hershey from Hank's Bait Store.
Man, that bear story, I still think about that. Like
Every time I
every
see a
time I
bear
see like a
or an
log,
Instagram picture of a
oh
bear.
my gosh, that was fascinating. And congratulations goes out to him. He's just
Yeah, just saw
got
he
some
was
big personal
engaged.
news. He's engaged.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Hank.
They
And
released they really released some really cool things in the store. I saw they had it was like a first aid kit that they were,
yep,
you know, that they were building, you
yep,
know, for the store. And of course he had the really cool orange, it was like a hunter's orange retro, like what do you call that hat that he
yeah,
was wearing that day. So they got some really cool merch that they curate for Hank's Bait Shop and some great art.
yeah, and incredible artist. I mean, Hank's just a talented guy. He's one of those guys that can do a lot of things, and
Mm-hmm.
he does a lot of things well. He's
Very
great.
well.
He's a great writer, a great graphic designer, artist.
And with the podcast, got a podcast coming
Got a
out too.
podcast coming up. Cannot wait to get in on that. It's about conservation, and him and Drew Morgan from East Alabama Fly Fishing are going to do that together. So that's exciting
Mm-hmm.
on the horizon for them. We can't wait to help promote some of that stuff. How about our man Joe with Angler's Coffee?
I know, man. What a renaissance man for starters. I mean, the guy's been a CEO of like companies making coffee machines, and then now he's a coffee roaster and fly
Man,
fishing extraordinaire.
you talk about somebody who's been in the coffee game for a
Long time.
long time, and I
Yeah.
mean saw the origins of like Starbucks and Seattle's Best, and some of these things kind of turn into what they are now, and some of the products that they used, he was first ones to use those, and just now they've got a large mouth and a small mouth
I know.
bass blends.
Looking cool. Yeah,
He
I'm hoping
need
to order some of that coming
I
up.
I would love to. I want to get some more of that dry dropper uh, coffee in a tea bag type thing. And
Yeah.
we're going up on a camping trip here not too long from now, and I'd
Yeah.
really like to take some more with me.
It
That's
really is good.
it's great stuff. It's
Really,
not
really
instant
good.
coffee by any means.
We're not just saying that because we hadn't gotten anything from them. I mean,
No,
everything.
well, this is not a paid advertisement. This is legit
You're
good
good.
coffee,
Really enjoyed it. Yeah.
and I'd have to say, Brad, I would say that you and I are pretty much coffee snobs. We're not going to turn down a lot of coffee, but we also kind of appreciate it when
Yeah.
it's really well done.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'd say I'm no discriminator of coffee.
Right.
I love truck stop coffee. You know, I get it down there at the
Yep.
Flying J.
Yep.
Or, you know, if you're so lucky to have a bougie Bucky's, uh,
Bucky's coffee.
But I like Bucky's coffee, but I also like your third wave single origin roasted, you know, coffee made by a guy with really tight jeans and a really fancy mustache.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really like high quality coffee. I can tell the difference, but I don't discriminate.
No.
I like all the coffees. But I really have enjoyed English coffee, and it was great to hear his story about that company and love little small companies like that. And it was really cool to hear about that. And man, their marketing is what sucked me in, man. I mean, their
So
artwork
good.
on their coffee bags and all of their coffee is just marketed directly towards, you know, it's anglers coffee, for crying out loud. So it's fly fisherman's dream. So I
Got
love
me.
that. Got him.
Got him.
Got him.
We had
Oh,
4 essays. I
we
did
told
two, and,
some.
and you did too. We told some stories. Honestly, man, okay, so the 9 mile ride, that was the one that I was writing about when talking about the importance of cycling in my life, and I had some
Yeah.
really good mentors throughout the years. And Bill, um, he is one of my favorite people. He is a former boss and now a dear friend, and we go riding a lot. But honestly, Brad, I wrote that essay, and it came to a point where it got very emotional about talking about my dad and whenever
Yeah.
dad passed away. And let me tell you, that was not the intent of when I started writing that story.
Really.
I went in, I was like, oh, this is just going to be a little aside. It's going to have some significance because of 9 miles. And it's going to be, I was riding my bike when I heard the news of my dad passing, but I had to stop several times writing that essay.
I'd stop several times reading it.
Wade Blevins called and he texted me, he said, man, I couldn't, it took me like 3 times to get through that essay just listening. That was not my intention. It's just where the story went. And, when you're talking about death of a family member, death of a father, especially a loved one, things can get pretty emotional, but I was not intending on pulling the heartstrings so hard with that first essay. But thank you. You did a great job being a good steward of that story for me. And your Rocky Mountain road trip, man.
Oh man, so much fun. I mean, it's been, I thought a lot about, I loved what Andy said, Andy Blanks in a previous episode, he one of the big things that he said that just kind of came up in our conversation of giving our kids stories, not stuff.
Yeah. How good is that?
So that was one of the, the things for us this summer is we took our kids out and family vacation out to the Rockies and road tripped out there. And man, it was a blast. And, they still talk about it, and it's something that I know they'll remember. It's a memory that I know we'll remember. And it was a lot of fun to write about, had a lot of time driving. So, I certainly had a lot of, I think I talked about it. We talked about it before. The drive is so beneficial for what we talk about a lot on here is reflection, and it gave that, we left here, it's a 20 something hour drive, 20 hours and some change. We saw 9 states in all. I think Mississippi was the only one we repeated. But going out there, as we drove, I mean, it was like, the further we got from home, the cords connecting us to, our office email, our work emails, and our phone, all of that started just to unplug away from us. The further we got, it gave time for us to transition into, when we got there, we were on vacation. It was such a helpful thing to do in a road trip is, we arrived and we were there. We didn't, I think I've heard John Eldridge talk about this before of like having that transition time of not, we fly on an airplane, and it's such a quick transition.
Yeah.
Sometimes like boom, you've left work. Now you're on vacation, but physically you aren't, or mentally you aren't really on vacation yet.
Yep.
And then like halfway through your vacation, you're like, now I'm on vacation. Oh, it's gosh, we got to pack up tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, there's a quote. I can't remember who said it. It says, no man is in need of a vacation more than the one who just had one.
Yeah.
If we don't take that time to transition.
And coming back the same way, like it gave great time for reflecting on what we just experienced. And
I could just, that was so beautifully written too. I could just see you and Paige sitting in the front seat, just smiles you couldn't wipe off your face of just what y'all just did was just phenomenal.
Yeah, I couldn't believe we did it. It was such a long road trip. They'd never done that before. Yeah, it was a blast. It was truly a blast. And so it's a lot of fun to reflect on that and to write that story down. And now they can go back and, they can listen to that episode. They can one day read that story and, they can have their own memories attached to, what I'm telling, because that's obviously from my perspective. And maybe one day they'll write it from their perspective, their memories. So yeah, it was a super story. A lot of fun.
Man, what a great memory.
Every time I see a taco stand now, like I want some tacos from the Gill House.
We talked about tacos and the gathering of wild dogs. And when I wrote that, I knew where I was going, but it was like a long way around to get to where I was going. I mean, it covered a lot of ground to get there, but the idea of this fly fishing community in Alabama reminds me so much of my mom and how she was always welcoming for one more and for it was always there was always an extra room at the table. There's
Yeah.
always more room at the table. And, just that this group has been such a welcoming group, and it's been such a fun group of guys and ladies to get to know. It was a long way of telling a story about, hey, how community is important, and we got to be intentional about it, and we have to recognize our place in that community to be able to welcome other people into it.
Yeah, it's a good word. It's a good word. I'm so fortunate to get to travel this year, even more. Relished my opportunity to get on an airplane to go to different places, especially after a couple of years of not being able to go internationally.
Yeah.
And so, man, getting to go back down to Nicaragua to see friends that I haven't seen for a couple of years now, and we've talked, of course, on email and so forth, and text message, but to just to be able to put arms around them, it was such a blessing to be able to go back down to Nicaragua.
You can't replace that face to face, shaking of hands, hugging of necks. I mean,
no,
there's no amount of technology that can replace that.
No. So it was so good to write about that and to think about that. And every time I recently I had the opportunity to travel to Nepal, and I thought about it then as I was I was mostly done with that essay when I made that trip to Nepal. And we make this sort of sweeping turn and up and down and flying, and we're landing in Kathmandu, and you can just see it's a pretty good sized town, pretty good size city of people, and lots of concrete buildings, and cars, and more motorcycles than I think I've ever seen. Like everybody had a motorcycle in that little town.
Yeah.
And just, millions of people that I didn't know, I knew that the city was there, but I didn't really know they existed, until you see them and hear the sounds and smell the smells, and you're really aware of these people are living lives every day, and I was really oblivious to their existence.
Mm.
And then now I'm seeing them, or I'm, eating dinner in their home, perhaps. Yep. We got to do that a couple of times. And then you're like, man, God was not caught off, the Lord knit them in their mother's womb. I think about those scriptures, before the foundations of the universe, he knew them. We say that to, about me, like the Lord knew me, the Lord made me, the Lord fearfully and wonderfully made me, but when you start going, oh, he made that guy, I don't even know who that guy is.
Yeah.
And he's on literally the other side of the planet, by the way. It's a long way to Nepal, by the way. It's tomorrow there right now.
Yeah, right.
But, to see those people and go, man, like God is infinite. Obviously, God doesn't change. But like I said in the essay, my perception of who God is always grows every time I travel, every time I land in a new city.
I love that.
I'm blown away by, one, the amount of people. There's a lot of people there. And, easily of the places that I've been, I've been to a lot of places, man. I have never seen driving situation more chaotic than Kathmandu.
Oh, that's saying a lot.
It's the most chaotic driving scenario that I've ever seen. And only once did I see like the face of concern on someone else. Like one time, and the whole time that I was there, I saw somebody like give a little like, ooh, like you almost hit me. Most of the time they're just going along. And if there's a gap, if there is any gap, I promise a motorcycle is fixing
motorcycle be in it. Hey, do they use their horns at all over there?
Oh yeah. They give a little tap tap. It's not an angry tap tap. It's a hey, I'm coming by you.
Coming by. It's all good.
Yeah. But yeah.
I love that. I love how you tied it into Aslan and Lucy.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that was so appropriate. You're bigger.
No. Every year you grow, I grow, and every year I travel, his bigness is revealed to me. Mm. So it's a lot of fun to reflect on that and to think about those experiences, man.
Glad you shared those.
Yeah, it was cool. What a great man. I'm so, as we just recapped the whole season, I'm so blown away at who was on it. And man, a lot of people listened. I'm so thankful for all these people that listen. And
Yep.
Support us. We had the hats this year.
Yeah.
We
Did the
did the
hats.
hats.
We had
We
some
still have a few
giveaways.
of those.
Yeah, we got some left. If you're interested in getting one, just hit us up on our Instagram direct message or something, or you could email us at thestoriedoutdoors@gmail.com.
Yeah.
We finished the season. Well, kind of finished it. We had a Christmas week that was kind of just something new that we tried out.
Yeah.
We've in the past 2 years, I guess it would have been in the fall seasons for the last 2 years. Mm-hmm. We've dropped a Christmas story, the ones that I've written, and it's fun to see how people enjoy those. They listen to them with their kids, and we did 4 Christmas stories this year. 2 of them we had recycled, and 2 brand new ones. And man, I'm telling you what, Brad, you have such a gift of bringing these stories alive. I literally wrote these things, but I got lost in the story by the way that you told them. And
that's awesome.
My kids would want to hear them over and over and over. So, a lot of the listens that we have that showed up on our analytics, those are from my children who are just wanting to listen to them on our road trip. But it was
great.
But no, I really appreciate you doing that and doing it so well. Those were a lot of fun.
Thank you, man. I enjoyed it. It was so much fun to do. To tell the stories, and yeah, they were great stories. They were fun. I loved One Horse Open Sleigh. I think peaked up as one of my, Uncle Doc will be a favorite character, but
yeah.
But man, that story was a cool story for me. I enjoyed the take on, how you got that story, and where it spun off from, and it's fun. It was a lot of fun, man.
Well, thank you for saying that. Yeah, we had a lot of different. So let's think about this season. We had interviews, we had stories from Brad and me, we had essays that we wrote, we had the fiction
action.
Yeah. We would love to hear from you. Like, what if you're listening? What are the types of content that you like? We do these things because this is what we like. And we're not going to go crazy by saying we're going to abandon some of these things, but we would like to incorporate more of, if there's a certain type of story, if there's a certain type of guest that you would like to hear from, if you like the essays, do we need to do more of those? Do you enjoy the Christmas stories? I guess that's becoming every other season, I guess in the fall. So, we're wanting to hear from you. We want to hear, what do you like about this, the Storied Outdoors, and how can we do more of that?
Yeah. I was thinking, Brian, how this, it's a pre-recorded podcast, and we'll post it and people download and listen to it. Part of me wishes it was like a radio show where people could call in. I would so much love to be able to interact with people on the phone, to hear some feedback, like this year is the first year we had any kind of sort of advertisements. We partnered up with some friends of mine and friends of Brian's, the Rowley family with Growly Leather. We partnered up with them. They gave us a code to use in their online store. And then my friend Jason and Colleen Smith with Mobile Bay Firewood, they gave us a code. And, that's not something we've benefited from at all, really, outside of our friendships with them. It was just something we wanted to try. And we wanted to see, if it would be beneficial for them and help their businesses. And, could we in the future try to do some advertising where we started to make a little money on the podcast to put back into the podcast. Really would be our ultimate goal. We have full-time jobs. We're not trying to make some kind of side hustle, but we would love to invest back into the podcast in some ways. And so we've thought about that. Like, did you guys enjoy that? Were you put off by the advertising? I know we're in a world bombarded by advertising. And I know sometimes it's a necessary evil for some things, but we don't necessarily have to do it. Right.
Well, and we were very selective with those 2 companies. It's not like we just turned on the advertising for the podcast hosts that we use and they just throw up a random company. We know the Rowley family, and the Mobile Bay Fire firewood family. Those are things that we think that you all as listeners would be interested in. It's not like, they were the highest bidders. That it wasn't that mentality.
Yeah.
So
we really just wanted to be a blessing to them,
Yeah.
small businesses. And so it was really cool. So yeah, I'd love, if you would take some time to send us some feedback on that. If you can, you can email us thestoriedoutdoors@gmail.com. We'd love to hear some feedback on, advertising. Perhaps you have somebody like, man, you guys should interview so-and-so. They have a great story to tell. I would love that. We have a long list of people that we're getting to, but man, there's always room for more. Brian, I think my other question I wanted to ask was, we did a lot of episodes this year and we mulled a couple of times. Should we go to a bi-weekly episode drop all year round? Do people want more content, or do you like the seasons where there's a break in the summertime and maybe a couple of episodes in the middle of the summer, and then no more episodes, and then all of a sudden it's the fall?
Yeah.
Do you like the breakup of that, or would you, people wanting more episodes? I don't know that we could pull off a weekly recording.
Yeah, that'd
50, 52, weeks out of the year.
We're not too far from that, but it's also the stress of knowing it mentally, that's always there, kind of hanging out over there. It may not be conducive to kind of our rhythms right now, but I would love to know how is the current rhythm being perceived and being received.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah. And we have our hats, we have our stickers. Is there other merch that you might like to see? Would you guys like to see a t-shirt, something like that? We're all up in, we're trying to figure these things out, and we're trying to do it intelligently. We don't just want to throw something out there that's just going to not be well received. But if it's something you guys are interested in, man, we would love to explore that a little further.
But, at the end of the day, man, this is, like we said, earlier, we can't do this without you guys.
Absolutely.
And so we need all your feedback is so beneficial to us, and your listenership is such a blessing to us, and your feedback matters, and you're a part of telling these stories. And so we would love to make you, see you be more a part of these stories being told and more interaction. So we'd love to hear from you about these things to, just to help us make it better. We want to steward, what we've been given in this podcast very well. And
and that kind of leads perfectly into an opportunity that we're going to have present to our listeners.
Yeah.
We're going to open up submissions for essays. And these would be something that would be very similar to the essays that Brad and I've written. The one that Brittany wrote for Father's Day this past year.
Yeah.
Perfect example. We actually solicited her. We just asked her to do that, and she was gracious, and she did a fantastic job. She knocked it out of the park. And it was perfect for Father's Day. But we're going to open up submissions. We want you to write a story. If you're interested in doing that, email us or direct message us on Instagram. Reach out to us. We want to hear your story. So we're going to have a little bit more of an extended mini summer series of essays from our listeners that Brad will artfully read, and I will look over them from an editor's standpoint, just to kind of make sure that everything is on brand with kind of what we're doing, and nothing is all the grammar there. So don't feel like you have to be a polished writer to be able to submit these things. We just want it to be your story, and we want to help you tell it. And we want you to tell it so that you can point back to this. If it's your children or your parents or your loved ones, whoever you want to hear this, it would be an archive for you to have in a digital format so that you could share that with others.
Be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we're going to do that, and we will post them. We'll have more information on that in the next couple of weeks about that not a contest, but open submissions for that. And we'll select
depending on how many we get.
Depending on how many we get, we'll have to make that call after we get the submissions. But
so that'd be so much fun, man.
Gosh, I'm looking so forward to that. That story from Brittany It just sucked me in. I just
So
loved
good.
hearing
Yeah.
that about her dad, and just yeah, it was a great addition to the podcast.
Yeah, for sure. I got a story, Brian.
So, Brad, we like to ask our guests, if you're sitting around a campfire, what's one story that you would share?
Boy, do I have a whopper. Mm. Man, I have wrestled with how to share, And I will point out, we've been going for roughly 40 minutes or so. So I get it. I'll make it, not too quick, but quick. Um, we talk about fishing on here a lot. We talk about fly fishing on here a lot, and we love it. We enjoy it. And I've said a number of times, I live in Mobile. I live down here on the, you know, as the crow flies, probably only maybe a mile and a half, 2 miles from the delta, the upper delta of Five Rivers, tons of water, the Gulf Coast, Mobile Bay, Dolphin Island, Bayou Sarah, Bayou Heron, tons of water. I mean, just thousands of miles of water to explore. And I've said often, I was like, man, I would love. It'd be cool to one day own a boat. To really be able to experience where I live to the fullest. It'd be cool, but you know, it's gonna be. My kids are here. We have kids are in school. Probably that would be something long. So that was something I've dreamed about. I was like, man, that would be cool one day on a boat. And Brian, you and I've talked about that. It'd be really cool. Maybe one day you can have a float craft, maybe one of those river rats or a drift boat, and then that way you have your boat and we can go trout fishing, and you can come down here and I'll have a skiff and we can go red fishing, fishing. So that's
Talked about it several times, especially
oh,
on the show, in person, anytime
yeah,
we're fly
all the
fishing.
time.
We talk about it all the time.
Yeah. And so it's February. I mean, February, December 23rd. I'm just sitting out here at the house. In fact, we had fire grilled um, the day before. I went down to a friend of mine's church, a church member who lives on Dog River, and it's a beautiful. His house is a beautiful place there on the river. He's got a big dock, and um, he keeps a couple of crab traps out there, and which is really cool. And we pull them up, and we pulled one up, and it had 17 blue crabs in there.
Whoa.
And so we pulled those out, me and Liam, every time we saw them, and they're like moving little things around. Of course, I'm thinking Nemo. Hey, hey. This was really funny, and we were giggling about that. But yeah, Mr. Kevin, showed me how to like clean them. So I learned how to clean blue crabs and then prepare them and get them ready. And so we brought those home, put them on ice. The next night, we set up a little outdoor fire, and I've got this, fire pit that I can cook on that I love. And so we fire grilled these blue crabs and had a great recipe. They turned out awesome, and I've got them all set up. And me and Paige were sitting down to eat our dinner, and rap on the door. I was like, what in the world?
Is that you, Santa Claus?
A little early. It's the 23rd. He forgot to set his clock. So I was like, man, what in the world could that be? And so I go around and I look out. I have this sort of half moon window on my door. I can kind of peek. I'm tall enough to sort of see over, see who it is. And I see it's a guy from my church, Kevin. Keenan Dollar, a good dear friend, plays in the band with me, and guy I've known for several years now. And so, man, I wonder what Keenan's up to. And so I open the door, and Keenan's standing there. And I look out in my yard, and like 20 or so men from my church and a couple of ladies, so their wives are with them, or standing in my yard. I'm like, what's
They're not
going on?
singing Christmas carols.
They ain't caroling, bro. No, they're not caroling. And Keenan, he just tells me, he's like, man, me and a group of guys, this group of guys and many others that aren't here, wanted to, you've been a blessing to us, and we wanted to be a blessing to you. And then he pointed, he said, so we bought you this. And sitting like sort of in my yard on the street is a Poland skiff, a yellow, it's like a 16-foot yellow with a white deck, center console, Poland platform skiff.
Beautiful boat.
It's a really cool. You got a yellow bottom and a white top, and man, I couldn't believe it. I was just, I literally, I was stunned. I'm still stunned. I'm still like, you're giving me this,
What was it that you said that this
it's
is
like something
this is
happens to
what
people on
happens?
TV.
This is happens to other people.
This happens to other people. This doesn't happen. And, and man, just, overwhelmed, overwhelmed by just the kindness from, people. And I got several messages from different friends of, after the fact that were a part of it, that sent me messages of, why they wanted to be a part of it. And in truth, man, like I told you earlier, in our text thread, I haven't posted about it yet. I'll post about it, in conjunction with this, now that we're telling this story. But I've been processing, that kind of a gift is it's just it's the craziest thing I've ever been given. It's just, who gets a boat given to them,
Yeah.
And I said that night, I was like, man, this is something I've always wanted, but would probably not buy for myself. And then they all, like in unison, sort of said, "We know," because it is extravagant. It's
Right.
not a necessity, and so it'd be very difficult for me to purchase, something that nice. And man, they did it for me, and I said, I really want to honor, the kindness that they showed me. And they all, many of them told me, man, you have, loved on me and invested in me, and man, I just wanted to return the love that I've been shown, to you. And deep down, I'm thinking, man, I don't deserve this. I don't, who feels deserving? I mean, if you feel deserving of stuff, then that's probably another issue you should probably talk to a counselor about. But I would venture to say most people, like, they don't feel deserving of something,
Right.
especially not that great and that nice. And but I'm grateful for it, especially for a job that I love to do.
Mm.
These are men from my church. I look forward to pastoring. I look forward to shepherding. It's not a dreaded work for me. It's something that I love to do. And to have that kind of a kindness and confirmation, given to me was just, man, it'll be an Ebenezer for me. It'll be that sort of stone of remembrance that I look back on. Does what I do matter? Of course it matters. The Lord, says it matters. I know that He's called me to this work, and I know Paul says, be steadfast and immovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, because your work is not in vain.
Mm-hmm.
So hear me. I know my work's not in vain, but there are times, as a pastor, when you're like, does it matter? Is anybody listening? Right. And so, my administrator, Mark Rudd, said, he's like, well, you can't ask that question anymore, because you can always look back to that boat and go, man, there were some guys that were really listening, that were really impacted by, your presence in their life. And so, my goodness, man, I just overwhelmed by gratitude.
Ministry can be such a dry period, a dry time, and yeah. If you're listening and you attend a church, or you've had someone that's helped you or been ministering to you, I would encourage you to just be vocal about your appreciation. I mean, that goes a long way. And a gesture like this boat is that's the next level.
Yeah.
What a special gift. And it was so funny. We had just gotten back from a trip, and I'd sat on the couch, and I'd fallen asleep. And I saw where Brad FaceTimed me, and I was like, well, that was a butt dial, because Brad, he never FaceTimes me. We either text or call. And I was like, well, it's late. It's a FaceTime. I'm asleep. I bet that was a butt dial. And then I get this text message from Brad, and it says, hey, call me back. It's important. I was like I woke up really quickly whenever someone sends out an SOS like that. I'm like, okay, I'm up. I call him back, and he's like, hey, bro, look at this. And he takes me outside and shows the shows the boat to me, and like I am just in awe, and just I've not seen Brad speechless and kind of overwhelmed like that in all the 20 years that I've known him.
Yeah.
And it was special. It was a special sight to see. And man,
Yeah.
what a great gift. What a great gesture. And it is, man, you do make an impact. You know, you're working hard day in and day out. Your family's impacted, your church is impacted, these men that you're ministering to are
Yeah.
impacted. Well deserved, buddy.
That's cool. I can't. So I've now taken my recently took my hunting license. I didn't have a hunting license, so I took my hunter's education course. So I'm educated on how to hunt now,
Yeah.
which was I actually really enjoyed taking the test. You know, I never hunted until I left Monroeville. I didn't hunt really after that because I didn't have anywhere to hunt, and sort of lost interest in it, you know, if you will. So I took that, and then now I've taken the boater's ed course. So now I'm educated in hunting and driving a boat. So
Well,
both of them were a lot of fun. If you haven't taken those things yet, they're a lot of fun. I learned a ton of things, and it was really a joy actually to take. It wasn't a sort of a burden, you know, like, oh gosh, I got to do this. No, it was really cool. I enjoyed it.
Very cool. I just need to know when we're going to take that boat out and try to catch some redfish.
Oh man, soon. I got to get. There's a couple of things. The polling platform over the engine. I've got to there. Somebody is fabbing a brand new one up for me to mount. The mount is there and the framework is there, but the actual platform itself, I got to get. It's being fabbed up as we speak, and so once I get that on there, get the boat registered, and actually purchase my license. I've passed the test, but I got to purchase my license and all of those things. It'll be ready, and then we'll find us a time to venture out into Bayou Heron and see if we can find us a fish.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, man.
Man, what a fun fall.
Man, a lot of stories to be had on that boat. I hadn't named it yet. I hadn't completely decided on the name yet. So that's pretty serious thing. So I'll take my time.
Well, it's also the second.
Pretty fired up about it.
It's also the second boat in the Storied Outdoors fleet that is bright yellow. We got Yahtzee, and we got the skiff to be named.
That's right. Yahtzee is yellow, so part of the fleet.
Part of the fleet. I love it.
The Armada.
But, well, we're not going to tip our hand to what's happening in season 6.
No,
not just yet.
Oh, no.
But it will be coming very soon.
Yeah, we're starting to work on it. Already got a couple. Got one in the hopper, 2 in the hopper. We got 2 in the hopper already. Guests and some exciting people. I did get something cool in the mail today. So if you're watching on YouTube, I think me and Brian talked about this. We got a little gift from our boy Wade Blevins and Sam's One Bug. You got one today too, didn't you, Brian?
I got one too, and man, I've never seen a Sam's One Bug look more like a frog in my life. Man, that is a fine looking bug.
Little toad. Can't wait to use that. I know Wade's he's been doing some cool stuff, so it's been fun to follow Wade.
You know, he's kind of leaning into a little bit of YouTube now, which I love seeing that. So if you don't follow Wade's YouTube channel, maybe we'll put that in the show notes. We got a couple of guys we want to kind of just give a little tip of the hat to. Stephen Rockerts, he's got a few dates open for the summer and spring, as far as his guide service goes, with Fly Fishing Alabama or Alabama Fly Fishing, and East Alabama Fly Fishing. Those guys with Craig Godwin, Roel, and Drew Morgan. So go check those guys out at East Alabama Fly Fishing, or Stephen Rockerts with Alabama Fly Fishing. So it's a man, 2 phenomenal options right here in the state of Alabama. If you want to go catching and not just fishing, and if you want to eat a doggone good shore lunch, you just go call those guys. They will hook you up.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm working on my contacts down here in Mobile. So if I can, maybe eventually you can call me and I can put you on some redfish, but it'll take me a little time to learn those tricks of the trade, but maybe one day we'll be able to do that. But
the practicing's sure going to be fun.
Yeah, practicing's going to be lots of fun. I tell you, man, there are so many great places to explore in this state.
Yep.
and so many species to catch with a fly rod in this state. So, man, there's a lot of fun to be had out there. So, we know not everybody's a fly fisherman, but that's just the thing that we love.
Yep.
But
and the best way to get involved in it is to go with a guide.
Yeah, get out there with a guide. Yeah, learn how to do it. Well, yeah, Brian, yeah, what a story. Certainly a Christmas 2022 one I won't soon forget. And thank you to all those that listened, that took part in that very kind gesture and gift. I will steward it well. There'll be a lot of stories that will be heard on this podcast that will happen out on that boat, the yet to be named yellow Poland skiff. So.
Well, we're so thankful for everyone who listens. Thank you for following along with us. If you're a new follower, welcome. You're welcome here, and we sure appreciate you come alongside us for our stories and for the stories that we get the privilege of telling of other people. Brad says it every time. If you enjoyed this, share it with a friend. Give us a rating.
Really the best way. The best way. Grassroots, sharing it with your pals.
Yeah, just posting it on social media, sending it through a text. We have so many listeners who only hear about it through other people, and it's been fun to watch our Instagram. I know this is a little aside. It's fun to watch our Instagram followers because at first it was like, okay, this is a friend of someone's, friend of Brad, a friend of Brian.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're getting followers that have no connection to anybody within our circles, and we are so glad you're here. And but that's only because of the people who are listening or sharing it with their friends. And so we really appreciate you. If you enjoy it, give us a rating or review. That really helps other people. Yeah, that helps other people. That we get no monetary benefit from that. It just helps other people find us. And if you enjoy what you're hearing, then maybe others will too.
Yeah. Well, we always say it, and I love it, is we hope, I hope the story about somebody this group of guys given me about inspires you to go live on your pasture. Because as a pastor, man, I was extremely and will continually be extremely blessed by that gift. And each one of these stories, whether it's an essay or whether it's an interview, we hope you find some inspiration in those stories and in those conversations and reflections. We hope they inspire you and encourage you to write your own stories and share your own adventures in what we love to call the storied outdoors.